Hey guys, so this is my lipo 1 year later video. I think it's been more of like a year and 3 months, but I'm just going to call it a year. This is actually going to be my final lipo update video. And in this video, I'm only going to be talking about things or answering questions that relate to long-term effects of lipo and not things like did it hurt and stuff like that. If you want to find answers to those sort of questions, you can go watch some of my previous videos and I will link that playlist somewhere. I felt like I had covered almost anything I wanted to say on this topic, but of course I do still get a lot of messages about it since I did put it all out there. So even though everything I've previously said pretty much still stands, I know a lot of people have wondered if there's any other long-term effects or anything like that. I know some of you still want updates on like the scarring and maybe my thoughts after like a year and being at my final weight now, how I feel about it then and stuff like that. So I'm just going to get right into these questions. I got these off of my Instagram, but any of these I'm going to be answering are pretty much general questions that I get asked a lot anyway. So let's begin. So I think the biggest topic that I want to cover is, do I still think lipo was necessary after losing a lot of weight on my own as well? If I knew then what I knew now, would I still have gotten it? You know, do I still think it was a good idea? Do I regret it? And my answer to all of that is I do not regret it, and I still do think it was a good idea for me because I've said many times lipo does not help you lose weight long term. And for some people, it might actually hurt them since you do have to really take it easy. You can't do a lot of activity while you're recovering, etc. That might be hard for some people who keep their weight down by exercise or by keeping it moving. But I've really tried to emphasize that getting lipo for me was more than anything a mental thing. I needed a kick in the butt to be able to keep going, and I think that if I didn't get lipo, I still think I'd be at my highest weight. Getting lipo for me was more of like, okay, I did give myself a little head start basically, and I wasn't going to go through all of the pain and the whole process. And you guys know it was like not the biggest deal in the world, but it was like a big thing for me. I wasn't going to let all of that go to waste. And so for me, I still think that it was a good decision on my part. I think that was the biggest question. So let's move on. So next question. Is there anything during the healing process I wish I had done differently? Yes, absolutely. I did not take it easy while I was healing. I got lipo in Vegas, stayed there a couple days, and then I flew home back to Portland, well, home then. And then like 5 days later, I flew back to Vegas again for a girls' trip. And by the end of that trip, I was more swollen than I was at any point, even right after lipo. I had retained so much water. My shoes, even my flats, didn't fit, and I felt awful. I should have taken it easy, and that was definitely a mistake on my part, and I do think that I did set my healing back a little bit by doing that. Overall, I would not recommend getting lipo and then going on a girls' trip to Vegas. I also didn't wear it's been so long since I've worn it or thought of my faja, I think it is. I wore it for a solid 30 days, and then after that I took it off and I never wore it ever again. And I don't think that affected my results. I know that can be really important for some people to keep their shape and stuff like that. But for me, I was absolutely miserable in it and I could not take a second longer in it. So I don't think that affected my results, but everyone may be different. So I do not regret not wearing my compression after the 30 days. Does loose skin visibly tighten after a year? Yes and no. I do have a good amount of loose skin on my stomach. I did get the laser lipo on my lower stomach, and that is supposed to further help tighten the skin. But obviously I can't know how it would have looked had I not gotten that. I will painstakingly insert a picture of me this past summer at a lake, and I didn't really realize how much loose skin I had until I saw that picture. And I know to some people that might not be anything, but you know, everyone has their personal insecurities. It's not a competition. And I do feel like as time goes on, my skin does get a little bit tighter. I feel like recently I've been told like I'm losing too much weight, even though I've stayed about the same weight for almost about 6 months now. I think that might be because my skin is just tightening up a little bit more all around. So I hope that's the case. But you know, when you see yourself day by day, it's hard to really see those changes like other people see them. And then we'll just talk about the scars. I do have, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 little punctures that I got, and they are pretty light now. You can still see them. I'm not as good at putting scar cream on them as I should be, but they have still faded a lot on their own. The scars weren't a concern for me at all because I knew they were going to be super small, so that was never a huge concern for me. I know for other people it's people seeing the scars and wondering what they got done, but for me, I don't really care, obviously. So yeah, you guys can see how they look now. I'm happy with that. As far as the stretch marks, I have stretch marks all over my body and they pretty much all look the same since the lipo and losing the weight. They pretty much all faded in color, but they are still definitely there. I've really tried to just like accept things that I can't change. You know, I can't change that I have stretch marks, so there's no point in worrying about it. It is what it is. And then, is it a gateway procedure? Are you thinking of doing any further surgery? That is a good question. I know for some people, if they start getting things, it's kind of like spirals, kind of like how some people are with tattoos. For me, it is not. You know, of course, everyone has this like perfect, you know, idea for their body, how they want it to look. But like I had mentioned, it was really what I needed mentally. And some people don't understand that, and that's okay. Either you get it or you don't. And if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm not gonna try to convince you. The only further surgery that I ever really see myself getting at this point is a breast lift. After losing so much weight, I am basically left with breasts that are about a size B or C in like triple D skin. They honestly reach to about the bottom of my ribs. I know I've gotten some comments about them, but I mean, like, really, what can I do? Breast sagging is just something that happens naturally, happens when you lose weight, happens when you get pregnant. It is honestly so normal. There's nothing to be ashamed about it. I, of course, would like a breast lift, but I don't think it's in the cards for me in probably like this next year. We'll see, hopefully, but I'm not making it like a priority. Getting them lifted is really just like a comfort thing because it is really uncomfortable if I'm not wearing a bra. Like, I'm not gonna keep going into detail, but it kind of just feels like a ball in like a sack of skin, and it's not really comfortable. I had talked about getting a reduction, but at this point I don't need a reduction. A lot of it left when I lost weight. So that's really all I plan on getting further. Obviously, it's no secret I get my lips done. That's really about it as far as like changing this. And then, do I have any random pockets of fat in areas? Do I have any hard spots or lumps or any numbness? I'm going to address all of those. Basically, no. I was worried about having a like sort of lipo stomach. You can sort of tell if someone's gotten lipo recently because it all hasn't softened up yet. It's still like hard. Don't quote me, but I think it's either the liquid hardening up or the scarring, or I'm not 100% sure. But that all went away, I think, completely 100% gone after like 3 or 4 months. I feel like I still have like a perpetual 2% numbness all around like my stomach and back where I got it done. But other than that, it feels completely normal. I don't have any random like bigger pockets of fat or any hard spots. And then, what are my measurements now? So my underbust right now is a 29. I measured recently because I always measure to make sure my clothes are gonna fit now. So like under here is a 29. My waist is a 24, 25 sometimes. And then my hips here, not like here are a 38. And then the day that I got lipo, my measurements were 36.5 for my underbust, 45 at my waist, and it says circumference around butt, so where I say my hips like the widest part, basically like right here. I know people don't like when I say that my hips, but here is where I'm talking about when I say my hips. That was 39, and lipo didn't do anything for my hips, so that was just from the weight loss. My stomach, I do think, wouldn't be this small had I not also gotten lipo on top of the weight loss. I think the difference would be my waist would be a little bit bigger and my legs and my arms would be a little bit smaller. I feel like I have now at this point like virtually no fat on my stomach. It does feel a little like malleable almost because there's not just like a thick layer of something there anymore. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the hardest part, I think, about the whole process of getting lipo. And I think honestly the hardest thing are just people talking down to you for it. I chose to be like super honest about the whole weight loss and lipo and just everything I've basically done to my body, but it is still, I feel like, really looked down upon, even though a lot of people do it, and a lot of people hide that they do it, and I truly don't blame them because you sort of lose either way. If you're honest about it, people attack you for doing it and criticize what you should have done and why don't you love yourself and all this kind of stuff. But then if you hide it, it's also like, wow, you're being deceptive, and you can't win either way, honestly. And I think that's kind of been the hardest part, especially with the fact of losing weight on top of it, because I know that lipo does not help you lose weight long term. People just want to tell me like, oh, you cheated and da-da. And honestly, if you think like that, I don't really care. I think one of the comments that like stuck in my head from it was someone was like, I want to lose weight, how did you do it, etc., that sort of thing. And then soon after there was another comment from them right after basically saying, oh wow, I just saw that you got lipo, that was cheating, like I can't believe this, all you had to do was diet and exercise. And I just like never understood when someone comes to you and is like, hey, how do I do this thing? And then they turn right back around and tell you how you could have done the thing that they're asking you how to do, if that makes sense. I feel like that's been kind of frustrating. I really do think the comments were the hardest part of it all, but that doesn't mitigate. I know how much love I also have received and how much support from you guys that I super appreciate, but it is still hard to see those sort of things. So that is really it. I think that is everything that I wanted to cover. I don't really see myself doing any more lipo updates. That's not to say that I won't continue to maybe do like what I eat in a week or days, or, you know, like maybe some like food or recipe videos and stuff like that. I'm not really doing weight loss anymore. I'm have been maintaining for quite a long time now. In my head, 6 months. I feel like it's a long time for me. I can't really say I'm gonna like update you guys on like weight loss because I'm not losing weight, but I definitely do strive for being healthy. You can see a lot of what I eat on my second Instagram. And yeah, that is all I really wanted to say, I guess. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you next time. Bye!